Hey guys, so today we are going to look at many-to-many relationships in Elixir using a sample application for blogging. Okay, um, and before I started this recording, I kicked it off by running this Phoenix new generator, makes Phoenix new blogger, and that gives us the standard Phoenix application. Okay, so as you might know, a blogging application needs posts and tags, right? So a blog post typically has a title and body. A tag typically has a name. And here, the relationship between posts and tags is a many-to-many, which means a post can have many tags and a tag can be on many posts. For instance, my blog has a lot of Elixir posts, so many of the blog posts have a tag called Elixir, whereas the Elixir tag is on many of the blog posts, right? So let's look at a quick example here, right? So let's say we have a blog post whose ID is 1 called Hello World, and it has 3 tags: tag 1, 2, 3, Hello New Beginning, and 2020 goals. And a blog post 2, which has a tag called Elixir, New Beginning, and 2020 goals. So as you can see, tag 2 is present on both post 1 and post 2, and it can be on other posts. Similarly, post 1 has multiple tags. And the way it's usually captured in a relational database is by using a join table called posts tags. So a pluralized version of the first model and the pluralized version of the second model, usually joined by an underscore. This is a convention that Ecto follows, and a convention that Rails follows too. And it usually has just 2 columns: a post ID, which is the ID of the first model, a tag ID, which is the ID of the second model. And for this particular data sample, that table would have post ID 1 containing 3 rows, 1 for each tag, and post ID 2 containing 3 rows, 1 for each tag, right? So that's how many relationships are modeled in the database. Now let's start scaffolding this. And so what I've done is I've just executed mix Phoenix gen HTML just to see the way it should be invoked. And the way it should be invoked is by running mix Phoenix gen HTML, the name of the context, the name of the model, the pluralized name of the table, database table, and then the column names and their types. So here we have title, which is a string, and this a body, which is a text, right? So this is fairly simple. You've got that, and I'm gonna copy this route into our router. So just go to router and put it here. And next, we are going to generate the tag model, and the tag model is gonna be in the blog context too. And it's going to have a name tags. The name of the database table is tags, and it's going to have a database column called name, which is going to be text, not text, a string. Okay. So the difference between a string and a text is a string is a typical varchar column with like a limit of 255 or something, and a text is usually a larger column which has like a limit of 2 gigs or something. So yes, I want to put this in the same context, and now it says you need to add this. So we won't do that right now, and if you see, what it's done is it's gone ahead and generated the controller and the views. We probably don't need any of these, but we'll just keep them for now, and we'll also add this for now, and we're gonna get back to it and remove it later or tweak it a little. But for now, this is good, right? So we've just done some scaffolding, and we'll also add the join table, okay? So now to generate the join table, we probably have to look at we probably have to create a model, right? So you need to join model and a join table, right? So Phoenix Gen, I can't remember the name here, so let's just quickly look it up. So it's mix Phoenix Gen schema, that's the one, right? So Gen schema, and if you look at the arguments, it expects a context. We got the block context, and we want to name the model post tag because it's joining the two, and the name of the table is going to be posts and tags. Okay, it's just a convention again. And what else do we need here? We need nothing. Well, actually, we need a post ID which references posts, and a tag ID which references tags, right? So those two references. So now that we have that, let's just add this and commit it as a scaffold. And what we need to do is we need to edit those migrations to make sure they're all good. Okay, so let's take a quick look at those migrations. All right, so private repo migrations, create posts, looks good. You got the title, the body, everything looks nice. And then create tags, also looks good. You might want to make these not nullable, right? So say null, false, or what's the syntax for that? Null, yeah, just null. So it just takes null, false. Body can be empty, and similarly for tags, want it to be null, false, and for posts, it's a reference and it cannot be null. Okay, so we don't want either the post ID or the tag ID to be null, and we don't want any timestamp fields either. Right, so we got to get rid of that. And when we get rid of timestamps here, we need to go to the post tag model and get rid of timestamps even here. And so Ecto by default, so if you run the migrations now and open the database and look at Blogger dev and look at the posts tags table, it also has the ID column, right? Which is kind of meaningless here because we want the post ID and tag ID combination to be unique. So we're going to undo that by getting rid of that primary key. Okay, so we can say create table. Create table also allows us to set the primary key to false, right? So we do that, and I think there is a way to make the primary key be the other column. So here we'll say this column is the primary key. That is true. This column is also part of the primary key. Okay, so now we have a composite primary key. All right, and that looks good. Let's reset the database now. So if we run mix to ecto drop, ecto create, ecto migrate, that's going to drop the database, create it, and migrate it. This is one way to do it, or there is an alias in the mix file called reset, which does the same. Okay, so now it says it's already being used, and you have 10 connections because our server has 10 connections to the database. So let's kill the server and run this again. And now let's look at the database tables. So posts tags now has the post ID and the tag ID, and it has a primary key on post ID, tag ID. It has indexes on all the right things and foreign keys on all the right places. Okay, so looks all good, right? Awesome. Now this is good. Let's make a commit here. Say tweaked migrations. So we just tweaked the migrations. We should even fix the post tag table in the model. So let's go there, post tag table, and here what we want to do is we want to say that the primary key is false. So let's look up the documentation for that. How do we do that? So use Ecto schema and primary key. So you can say primary key can be it expects a tuple with primary key fields, ID or binary ID. So since we don't have any of those, we probably need to set it to false. I'm trying to see what the I think it's the same way to set up a primary key here. So you just say add primary key as false and say this is the primary key, and we can revisit it if it doesn't work later. Okay, so all good. Now finally we want to add this on the post, right? So we'll say go to the post model, and here we're going to say many to many, and many to many, just going to copy it from the documentation. It actually has tags as the example there. So tags, our namespace for the tags is blogger dot blog tag, okay? And we have a join through posts tags. So I think, I'm not sure if we need this. We might need this, but this is good, okay? So we have the join table, everything looks good. Now, let's actually do this through IEX and see how to set up the relationship, okay? So, you know what? Actually, let's do it through the web page. Okay, so go here, and we know that the posts page is on /posts. We say new post, and the title is Hello World, and welcome to Elixir. When we save it, it works, right? But it doesn't have the tags. So let's go back to the code, and so we need to change this form. Now, an easy way to add tags is just make it a text field and let the user enter tags separated by commas. Okay, nothing fancy. So what we'll do here is we'll go to the post controller, and we see that it's rendering the new view, so it's going to be the post new HTML, and here we see that it's there's nothing here other than the form. So if you go to the form has the title and the body of the post. So what we want to do here is we want to add something similar to that, but with a text input for a field called tags. So tags. Now, if we refresh this, it says protocol HTML save not implemented for Ecto association not loaded, right? So the reason for that is when we create a new tag, new post. So we'll just say blogger blog dot post, and I'll just create a struct for that, and you can see that the tags is set up to this struct, which points to it not being loaded from the database. So Ecto doesn't eagerly load things or load things when they're called like dynamically. You need to be explicit about everything. So that's what it means, okay? So one way to work around that is we can just say tags is an empty list. So that's what we're going to do. So we go to the controller, and in the controller, when we say block change post, give it an empty struct there. We'll say tags is an empty list. Okay, so now if you refresh this, it renders it properly, and this looks good. So let's just say hello world, take 2, and test hello world Elixir Ecto, right? So now it doesn't show up on the show page because we are not really saving the tags, and we're probably not even rendering them, right? So if you look at the database, let's just go to the database and log or dev, right? And look at posts and tags, right? So posts is empty, tags is also empty. Well, post is not empty, it's actually saving out post. The tags is empty, it's not saving out tags. The reason for that is if you look at the create and go to create post, it's not really saving anything, right? Because we didn't change anything here. So, all right, what should we do? Let's look at the params here, right? So let's look at the params. And if you look at the params is a post and a tags, and the tags are coming through, right? So that's good. Now, what we need to do is when you call block create post, we need to persist those tags. So let's do that. We go to the blog module and go to the create post module, and here we're just creating the post. So to create the tags, we need to take the tags and then persist them, right? So let's do that. What we are going to do is take the attributes tags, and if you look at the tags, it's a text field, which is a string separated by commas, right? So we'll split it on commas, and then we'll take each of those and we'll do something with it, right? So first we'll clean it up. So we'll trim the new lines. There's no new lines, there's spaces here. So we'll trim the new lines, and for each of those, we'll create this tag, right? So I'll say, this is actually tag name. And what we're going to do is we're going to call the create tag function, which should be down here somewhere, and use that to create the tag. Now let's just make sure we have that alias up there. We don't have the tag alias there, so let's just add it. And if you go back, let's make sure that there's a create tag function which does the same for tags, right? So all good. Let's run this again, right? So take 4. Now if we save it, it says expected params to be a map, but caught this, which is weird. So what's happening here? So, okay, so create tag expects a map. It doesn't expect a tag. So we do that, and we save this and rerun this, and looks like it worked. Let's go to the database and look at the tags, and the tags are there, so that's good. Now, one thing we want to do is we want to render these tags when the post is shown, right? So since the tags are being added, right? So let's go to the posts controller and the show action. So the show action renders the show template. So post show, and what we want to do here is we want to say the same thing but for tags. So I'll say tags is tags, right? For now, we'll just print the tags. That's good enough, or we'll just do an inspect tags. Okay, so that's good enough. And now when we look at the show page, it says association is not loaded, right? Which is how it should be, because when you try to find a tag using blog post get ID, and let's look at the ID. So that ID is 4. So let's run that in the console. So I'll say let's copy this guy, post it here, and here the ID is 4. So it says the blog module is undefined because it's actually called blogger.blog. Okay, so that's good. But now, like I said before, Ecto doesn't preload associations. So that's why tags says it's not loaded, right? But what we want to do is we want to preload it. So what we can do is we can say, we can use the repository to load the tag properly, but we don't have the proper imports here. So let's just quickly go to the blog module and copy the imports. So blog.ex, copy the imports right here. And a good thing to do would be just put these in the ix.exs file, because that's loaded every time the IX session starts. So with that, what we want to do is we want to say, all right, so what do? We say blog dot, yeah, so we'll say from b in blog, b.id as 4. We'll also say preload tags. So from is not a function. So did we import Ecto query? We did, right? So if we imported that, undefined function from 3. Okay, so this is the where clause actually. So I messed up the where clause. It says blog is, yeah, so it's not a blog really, it's a post that you're looking for. So that's the query, and if we run it through repo, we get the post without the association. Good, but the association has nothing in it because we didn't save the association. So let's see what I mean by that. So if you look at the tags are there. If you look at the posts are there. But if you look at the post tags table, the association data isn't there, because if you remember in our blog module, the create post is saving the tags and it's saving the post, but it's not saving the associations. Okay, so to save the associations, what we need to do is we need to say, we need to use something called a put assoc. Okay, and we need to pass it all the tags. Now, to pass all the tags, we need to get all the tags, right? So we create these tags and create returns the result of an insert. So what we're going to do is we're going to map these again, and for now I'll just say OK tag and return tag. So these are all the tags which have been newly created. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll say put assoc, which stands for put association, tags, and all the tags, right? So that should set up the association data properly. Okay, So let's go back and create a new post. Posts, undefined function put soc. So this is in Ecto change set. Let's just add that. Yep. And go to the new, and here we'll say take 5 test, take 5 foo bar. So now this tags still doesn't load up, which is fine, but let's go back and look in the database and see if this thing got saved. So look in the post tags, we see something, that's good. Look at the posts, that's 5, 5 has an ID of 5, and look at the tags, that looks good too, right? Now, very quickly, if you want to use the database to do the join, you would say select it from posts, join on posts tags on post ID equal to post tag ID, post tag post ID, and then inner join tags on post tag.tag ID equal to tag.id. Let's just give it an alias of t, and that would do the join. And now here you can see the title of the post and the name of the tag. Title of the post, name of the tag, and that since 5 is the only post which has any tags, that's why you only see that guy over here. Okay, but with Elixir you don't have to do any of this. So this is all good. Now let's go back to the show page, make it so that this actually renders the tags. So we learned that when we run this in IEX, it gives us a post with all the tags preloaded, right? Let's look at that syntax once again. Repo all from B. We just added this preload tags option there. Now let's go back and to our blog, go to the get post, and we'll create another function called get post with tags. Okay, and this function is gonna do that, or it can also say post preload tags. This is another way to get the tags preloaded. Okay, and let's just go back to the controller. So now we have a function called get post with tags. That takes an ID, gets the post, including its tags. So now let's go to the controller, which is the post controller, and change our show to do get post with tags. Okay, and hopefully this renders all our tags. Now we're just running an inspect, that's why we see all these tags here, like all the structs here, right? So let's fix that, and the way to fix it, we'll just say tags. We'll just create a helper function called tags and put it in the post view. So here in the post view, we'll just you know what, let's not do that. Let's just do the simplest thing here. So we've got tags, and what we're going to do is we're going to loop through those tags, and just tag.name. That's good. So it says take 5 foobar. That's okay, but we can do better. We'll say for tags. I'll actually put this on multiple lines. and close this properly and put this in spam. So now we have that. Let's just put some styling on it. I don't like that. It still looks like one word. So we'll just put background is background color is gray. Padding is 4%. That should be good enough. Okay. All right, that's good enough. So we've got 3 tags, right? So all good. What we want to do now, so what we want to do now is go to the edit and allow the tags to be edited and do the rest of the stuff. But before that, I also want to show you that we missed something here. So if I say hello world, take 6 test, use some tags which we already have in the database, and when we do that, it still works. How does it work? I was expecting this to fail. So let's do this again. Okay, so yeah, it works, but let's go look at the database. I think we're missing something in the database. So if you look at the database, we have, I'm just gonna order by name here. So here, if you see, we have duplicate tag names. So that's a problem. So we're gonna fix that and do a little more and hopefully get this whole thing wrapped up in the next session. So till then, bye, take care.